We are not doing hybrid pacing, we are doing hybrid learning. So I want to continue on, and I hope that you've already watched the video on the Great Awakening and Anglicization. That was a really great video that he did it a heck of a lot faster in 6 minutes than I could probably do. So I think that's a really good way to start the introduction of the Great Awakening. And the one name that you really need to know from the Great Awakening, this really incredible period of religious revival that happened both in Europe, but for our purposes in the colonies, is to know Jonathan Edwards. And as we talk about kind of the Great Awakening, this oftentimes fire and brimstone preaching, where like they're trying to get people all like excited and amped up, because people like Jonathan Edwards were intending to like get people to realize like the error of your ways, because now it's about people. Now, the Great Awakening is coming on the heels of this whole kind of period of the Age of Enlightenment. And now it's more of a focus on people, there's the bell, on people rather than groups, big like churches, for example, the institution. Now it's more of the individual. And so Jonathan Edwards writes this really fiery sermon, and I want to go through and kind of spy the doc, if you will, just a part of the sermon. The God that holds you over the pit of hell, as much as one would hold a spider or some loathsome insect over the fire, abhors you and is dreadfully provoked. His wrath towards you burns like fire. He looks upon you as worthy of nothing else but to be cast into the fire. He is of purer eyes than to bear to have you in his sight. You are 10,000 times so abominable in his eyes as the most hateful, venomous serpent is in ours. You have offended him infinitely more than ever a stubborn rebel did his prince. And yet 'tis nothing but his hand that holds you from falling into the fire every moment. 'Tis to be ascribed to nothing else, that you did not go to hell the last night, that it was you suffered to awake again in this world after you close your eyes to sleep. And there is no other reason to be given why you have not dropped into hell since you arose in the morning, but that God's hand has held you up. Yea, there is nothing else that is to be given as a reason why you don't, this very moment, drop down into hell. Whoa, okay, like, let's just kind of get into this view of what he is saying about God and religion and all this time. First of all, God is absolutely not the merciful. Well, he is the merciful, but boy, God is going to punish you. Like, this is, if we want to summarize this, God is going to judge and punish the sinners. That is going to be pretty bad, but it's truly God who's just holding you above this heart. He's keeping you from hell, but all he has to do is drop his hand. Like, you have no control over God's wrath and judgment. And so if we look at this and kind of think of the prompt, think about the techniques that Edwards is using here. He is using very strong imagery. The metaphors that he is using of you being like a serpent, of me being like the spider, the wrath of God is going to just burn me alive. This is extremely strong language. So if the prompt were something about, to the extent that Edwards is trying to, make it known in his sermon of God's intentions, this is very, very strong language. I mean, I think you can understand. Why was this written? Well, I think it is written for Edwards to get his people. That's who he's writing it to. I think he would have been writing it to his congregation, to the Puritans who would be hearing this, to try to say, wake up, listen. We're not joking around. God is all powerful. You have to pay attention to what you're doing in life because you aren't even really worth God's time. He's kind of giving you time on earth. And I think he's writing it to get people to come back to religion and have this religious revival. So this is an extremely important sermon that is one of the most famous. And take a look at the dating, 1741. And so we can understand this in the context of what's happening in period 2. We are experiencing a lot of the wars that are going on. There's tension that is building, and obviously the trade between England, or between Europe, Africa, and the Americas is happening. Jonathan Edwards is being very careful to say everything else doesn't matter. God is what is going to save you or punish you, and God will send his judgment. So think about this as you are getting into the next sections on this whole kind of cultural and social construct of what the colonies are beginning to look like. All right, until next time, we'll see you later. Bye.